Hi, I'm joined today by my colleague Fidelma Clarke, a fellow partner in financial services risk management practice in Dublin, to talk about EY's recently released global regulatory outlook. And this brings together insights and views and perspectives from EY's global regulatory network, which I'm delighted to be a member of. And it's a network of ex-regulators and other regulatory experts that works together across EY globally on all regulatory related matters. Fidelma, what did you take away from the report?
I think it's a really good summary, Ed, of 8 key drivers of regulatory change globally. There are, of course, the macroeconomic and geopolitical drivers. There are the political drivers, such as the EU's desire to push on the sustainability agenda, and also the impacts of Brexit. And then there are the risks associated with emerging technologies, digitalisation of banks, cryptocurrencies, cyber threats. So many different drivers, and regulatory change is designed, of course, to address these risks, but it can add a layer of complexity, for leadership teams who are trying to manage the change in parallel.
So that's a pretty complex and full agenda that we're outlining. Are we seeing regulators move in the same direction, or are we seeing any divergence?
There's quite a bit of divergence, which obviously has a cost, particularly for international banks. So I think the key takeaway for me in part of this report was one about operational resilience. So the run the bank, change the bank, manage disruption needs to be part of one agile operating model and not 3 separate areas of focus.
Very good. And thinking about it from a global perspective, we can also see those drivers you talked about feeding down through into European regulation and what's happening within Ireland. So we can see that drive for the kind of strategic autonomy within the EU kind of resulting in a very strong focus from the ECB and the central bank around legal entity, a little bit to your point around international banks. We can see the macroeconomic environment affecting what's happening in terms of consumer protections, and we can see the consumer protection code work the central bank is doing, I think will be important, because you work on financial crime coming through, real kind of increase in scrutiny on financial crime risk with the creation of the European Anti-Money Laundering Authority. And as you touched on, technology is a big issue that regulators are trying to create an environment to support innovation, but also protect consumers and make sure there's a resilient financial system. So a lot going on there. You touched on climate change. What's happening in that area?
Well, a lot, Ed, is the short answer. As we know, the EU is really desirous of taking a leadership position, particularly when it comes to reporting. And there's the Pillar 3 disclosures, for example, for significant banks. The first of those are due right now, actually, and they will be implemented on a staggered basis to June 2024, when banks will be required to report on their green asset ratio. We're also seeing lots of other drivers of reporting, including the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, which of course will apply to corporations as well as to financial services firms. And underpinning all of this, of course, is the requirement for data. New data that financial services firms have to collect from their customers and clients, and data quality. Because much of the data that's being used for non-financial reporting disclosures at this point in time is unaudited. And we are going to see over the coming short period of time, I think, the ISSB and other standards requiring the same level of assurance for non-financial reporting disclosures as for financial disclosures, which makes sense because it needs to protect against any risk of greenwashing.
Of course. It so often comes back to data. It really does. We think this report provides some really useful insight, both at the bird's eye level in terms of what's driving the regulatory agenda, and also then into the worm's eye detail of what's coming down the tracks in terms of specific actions that regulators and supervisors are taking around the globe. And we think that's a really important context for firms that are looking to proactively and efficiently get ahead of the regulatory agenda as they run their businesses and seek to grow into the future in very uncertain times. Thanks very much. Thanks, Fidelma.
Thank you, Ed.